All right, so back in maybe November, December of last year, I covered a story in regards to some levels of discrimination from the city of Boston, specifically out of Mayor Wu's office. And what it was in regards to was potentially discriminatory housing policies or housing practices. A lot of the news covered it back then, but there has been updates since then, and I'm going to share it with you right now. So this article from Mass Daily News was back on Saturday, May 2nd. So this was just a few days ago. And it says, feds file official discrimination complaint against Wu, list racist Christmas party, deprioritized English-speaking neighborhood, 65% racial quota for housing, and banks pressured to lend by race as evidence. Now, back in December, I believe, I don't know if it was like the chief spokesperson, I can't remember who it was off the top of my head, but somebody from HUD came out and said they were going to investigate this. And now, guess what happened? They are investigating. I actually have the report here. It is I'm not going to go through the whole report, guys. It's 71 pages long, and they start with the mayor defending restricting invitations to official Christmas party to non-whites. I don't remember if you guys remember that, but that was back in December of, I believe, 2023. So what's happening now is, and I've always, I talk about this often, when you have like one problem, and it's a big problem, like what happened during that Christmas party at that time, and the invites got sent out, and then, they sent out other invites to people that I guess were white that said, no, you can't come. Yeah, that's a problem, right? But it becomes a bigger issue when there is a series or a pattern of problems, right? That is what this is all about, and I think this is why this is getting scrutinized, and this is what it's getting looked at. Now, I do have to credit Mass Daily News did first report on this, because all you really needed to do was go to, they didn't even, it's commendable, okay? It's commendable, guys. You didn't even try to hide what the hell was going on, which leads me to believe that either there's some levels of delusion, or that you think that you're so right that it is okay to do these things. So the DOJ and HUD didn't even have to go anywhere to figure out what the hell was going on, because it was already posted on boston.gov. That's the reality of what happens. So this is the full 71 page complaint, which is here. And this woman, so what ended up happening is Mass Daily News got the attention of Harmy Dillon. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I apologize. Okay, I'm not perfect. But this is the Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights at the U.S. Department of Justice. And this is what happened, right? So Mass Daily News said this. Oh, this was back in July. Wu just announced a housing plan that ranks neighborhoods by race, language, and income. Now, this isn't the only program, by the way, in terms of housing. They apparently have been doing this in regards to school enrollment for college in some capacity. So it's not like this is a new thing. But it says on April 30th, that's when this report was filed by the Department of Housing and Urban Development, filed a formal secretary-initiated complaint accusing Boston of systematically sorting residents by race when deciding who gets housing help and using federal money to do it. The complaint names Mayor Michelle Wu personally, along with her chief housing, Sheila Dillon, Chief of Planning, Kairos Shen, and Mayor's Office of Economic Opportunity and Inclusion, and the nonprofit Opportunity Communities. This isn't a press release or a political statement. It's a legal filing. Yes, okay. We know all that. So basically what is happening here is any single time that you have a grant or some sort of program, and specifically when it comes to housing, these things are under heavy scrutiny, okay? These are under heavy scrutiny. And that's why this is happening today, because you can't just hand out money or not hand out money depending on your race. I mean, just the whole idea of this, it just is outrageous to even be talking about it. But that's realistically what's going on here. So it says, in December, HUD opened a formal civil rights investigation and gave Wu's team 10 days to respond. Wu didn't engage with the substance. Instead, she posted on Blue Sky, called the probe baseless, and blamed the Trump administration for political overreach. She did not dispute the 65% quota. She did not deny that race was baked into the housing plan. She changed the subject, and it didn't work. 5 months later, obviously, the end of April, here we are in May, HUD filed the complaint using the city's own paperwork as the evidence. So Again, they didn't even try to hide this. And furthermore, let me talk about this for a second. So look, if you want to be a champion of things, I understand that you want to double and triple down. Like, I'm not naive to the fact that people do these things, right? But in my opinion, it would be a much better look if you stood your ground, but then also didn't deflect when trouble comes knocking on your door, right? I think it would have been a better look if they came out and said, hey, look, this is why we're doing this. This is what it's for, and give some sort of explanation of why. Right? Not just deflecting, give an actual response, right? And they decided to not do that. I'm assuming they will eventually do that once they lawyer up or whatever the hell they have to do. But again, this is what it says. The 65% quota. Wu's administration set an explicit target that at least 65% of homebuyer assistance go to BIPOC households. The city's housing strategy 2025 says resources will help low to moderate income and or BIPOC residents. That and or is doing a lot of the heavy lifting. It means race alone can qualify someone regardless of income. The administration also didn't hide this. They tracked it as a budget KPI. That seems crazy to me. They tracked it as a budget KPI, which is a key performance indicator, presented it to the city council, and celebrated hitting the target in a press release. Let's see here. This is what it says. It says 1,900 residents receive first-time homebuyer education, provide 270 homebuyers with down payment mortgage assistance, 65% BIPOC. Okay, so it's obvious. I mean, this is obvious. It says showing 65% BIPOC as both an accomplishment and a goal. This slide was cited by HUD as evidence of racial quotas. The Christmas party. Okay, we don't need to talk about the Christmas party anymore. The electeds of color holiday party. Look, I mean, I don't know in what world, look at it this way. This is my thoughts on this. I don't know in what world where somebody thinks this is okay to disenfranchise certain people. Like, I could understand wanting to do something like this, but then actually executing on it and making it public, it's a terrible look. It really is. And it just leads me to believe, what the hell is happening behind closed doors? What don't we know? Because this is what we know. We know what they even publish, right? And now they're getting in trouble from the DOJ and HUD. What the hell is going on behind closed doors? That is the question that everybody should be asking, because what's made public is oftentimes not as bad as what is getting done behind the curtain. And that is very problematic to me. It is very, very problematic. Then it says, they rescinded the white counselor's invitations within 15 minutes, then sent what does the email say? On behalf of Mayor Rochelle Wu, I cordially invite you and the guests of elect. Oh, it was actually called this too. Electeds of Color Holiday Party on Wednesday, December 13th at 5:30. That's just, it's again, when you deprioritizing English speaking neighborhoods or English, white people at a holiday party. I mean, put the shoe on the other foot. That's the way that I like to look at these things, right? Put the shoe on the other foot. And if somebody else did this in Massachusetts, and it would be, we would still be talking about this. That's realistically what would happen here. The city's anti-displacement action plan uses a race-based risk assessment tool that steers public resources away from areas with higher percentages of native English-speaking residents. In plain terms, whiter neighborhoods get less housing investment. Pressuring banks to lend by race. Through the Boston Home Center, the city set out to induce banks and mortgage lenders to increase their lending in communities based on the racial demographics of the area, not income demographics, racial demographics. Like all of this stuff is potentially, like, I'm not an attorney, right? But I've been doing this long enough to realize that, like, a lot of this is like redlining in reverse. That's basically what it is. And a lot of these lenders are people that are involved in this. I mean, this is a clear-cut discrimination. If you want to provide to people, it needs to be across the board, right? It needs to be across the spectrum. You can't just select a few people, specifically based on race in order to initiate these programs. Lenders, if they do this, realtors, if we do this, we will lose our licenses if something like this happened. So I find it really sketchy that the city of Boston thinks that they can navigate these waters and basically do whatever they want. That's really what's happening here. So let's see what else it says. The race-conscious buyer selection. The nonprofit opportunity communities working alongside the city listed a program on its website for explicit race-conscious marketing and buyer selection. Like, that's the other thing. Oh, the website has since, or the webpage has since been deleted. HUD found it anyway. Yes, you could find anything if you go to like archives. But like, even to advertise, like race-based advertising, like this is the part of the code of ethics when it comes to housing, right? Like whether you're a real estate agent or a lender, like all of us operate under the same, ethical behavior. So why should city government get a pass and not have to operate under the same guidelines? It doesn't make any sense. That's my problem with this. Okay, that is my problem. It's not only a problem that they did it, it's a problem that they did it. They don't care that they did it, and they're doubling down on what they did. That is the issue. Okay. Racial terms for developers. Any developer seeking to build on city-owned land must submit a diversity and inclusion plan detailing the participation by people of color, including among future building tenants. The city intends to bring this racial composition standard into private development. They put that into writing too. So again, they built their own evidence. Yes, this is a really, wait a second here. Where is it? I mean, this is super long. And I mean, it starts with the Christmas party. It has, again, the Boston Housing Strategy 2025. I think we actually covered this in another video. I mean, it's right out in the open, right? It's right out in the open. You could read these things. You look at these things, and I don't care what kind of mental gymnastics that you want to use in order to think that this is right. It wasn't right back in the day for lenders and realtors and all of these other people to redline and do discriminatory practices. But you have to understand something. These organizations, whether it be the real estate organization or even lenders, have done so many things to try to correct this that this feels like a step in the wrong direction, right? Because what could end up happening here is you never want to see something like this go through without some levels of scrutiny, because you never want this to happen in reverse. And that's very well what these things end up causing, right? If you want to give money out to people, it should be fair. It should be equal, right? It shouldn't be based on race. It should be based on income. It should be based on your location, your area's median income. Like, there's different metrics that these companies use in order to prioritize certain communities. That's fine and dandy. But then when you would start to involve race and all of these other things, it just gets to the point where it's nauseating, right? It gets nauseating. And to my knowledge, like, other than Mass Daily News, I have not seen anybody give an update on what is happening here. I have not seen an update on anything that was happening. This is what some people are saying. Shame on the electeds of color only who participated. Just think if whites had whites elected, we would still be talking about that. That's what would happen here. Here's a big part of the problem. Nothing will happen. This is what I am very, very upset about. I'm not going to lie. Okay. These people get to do whatever. Look at what happened in Minnesota. These people get to do whatever the hell they want. They get to waste people's money however they want. They get to put money into these pet projects that benefit them in their districts or their towns or wherever they're at. Nothing ever happens to these people. They get to do whatever the hell they want. We need somebody that is willing to not only find the data, do the hard work, but we also need somebody that will nail these people to the cross, for lack of a better term. That's what needs to happen, because inevitably what will happen is the cycle will just continue. I'm really sick of seeing, I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but I'm really sick of seeing all of this stuff coming out, yet nobody gets arrested, right? Like, it's just... the only reasonable logic-based conclusion is that, like, these things are happening maybe on both sides of the aisle, right? Like, that's the only logical conclusion I could come up with. So, like, one side is pointing the finger at the other side is saying, hey, you guys are doing the same thing. I mean, what other logical explanation is there for it? So happy that her fraud is being dealt with and prosecuted. This is what Mayor Michelle Wu did. She invited color. Okay, we know that. Just arrest her. It's really a sad state of affairs when you prioritize certain communities or certain people and it's not applied evenly across the board, right? A lot of people, the crazy thing is with Wu, a lot of people are upset with her, so much to the fact that, here's another really good example. Michelle Wu built her career on Twitter at the time, right? She had a lot of followers on Twitter, and she's completely off of Twitter. Same thing happened with a lot of the legislature. Andrea Campbell, Cambridge literally made it policy that they cannot use X anymore. So you got to look at it from this end of the spectrum, right? These people don't want to have any levels of negative discourse. That's why they all ran to Blue Sky. They ran to Blue Sky because essentially it's like a safe space or a safe haven for these people where everybody is just going to agree with you. And in my opinion, I think that these politicians need to take these things seriously, because if you are upsetting, a large portion of your previous voter base or just people in general, and you're not listening to them, you're not hearing their complaints, you're not doing anything about it, and you're not addressing the situation head on, and instead you're deflecting, I find that to be very, very problematic. But here's what happens. A lot of these people get to do this because they have nobody relevant that actually challenges them. That's the issue, right? So if you don't have somebody that you're going to replace them with, they just run rampant, right? They just run wild. That's why I think term limits are a big deal. I really do, because otherwise these people just become, satisfied in the position that they're in, and they start to do things that are like, a common person could look at this and say, what the hell is going on here? You don't need to know everything about real estate. You don't need to know everything about lending. All you have to do is look at the policies that they're trying to uphold or they're trying to initiate, and you're looking at them and you're going, what the hell is going on here, right? But the issue is nobody gives any pushback. That's why, I looked. I even went as far as looking on, I looked on Google. I tried different search engines. And in regards to a lot of different, let me see here. Let me look one more time just to make sure I'm correct. No, I don't see anything at all. The last, WGBH posted something back in, let me see here. This was back in, this is when it first happened. Feds investigate Boston housing policies for discrimination against white people. I have not seen anything. This is from the Herald 2023. There's nothing in here that is recent, is what I'm trying to say. There's nothing in here that is recent from any other credible news outlets inside of Massachusetts. So you got to understand something. These people are trying to shield everybody to what is actually happening. And then when they see, either me talk about it or, Mass Daily News publish it, or it's on Twitter or it's on Instagram, I think a lot of people just dismiss this as some kind of propaganda or misinformation, when really this is what happened. All you have to do is go to boston.gov in order to find what the hell is going on. So, I find it really problematic. I do, especially because this is an industry that I work in. If me or a lender friend of mine, if anybody ever tried to do something like this, we would be kicked out almost immediately. It would be, we would be gone. We'd be history. That's what would happen. But I wanted to bring this to your attention, just based on the fact that I think more people should cover this, right? I think that more people should cover this. They already do a great job of covering everything else. I think this is something that other people need to cover as well. We'll see what happens with this. Again, I think it's a good thing that they're looking into this, because even if somebody doesn't go to jail or whatever happens, at least they kind of reel these people in. They reel these people in. These people like to go off of the deep end and swim in the water as much as they possibly can. So then what happens is, the DOJ has to get involved, HUD has to get involved. They have to kind of reel them in, right? So that in the future, they don't try to, they at least have to second guess themselves before they do something. Right now, again, everybody pats themselves on the back and does whatever they want. At least that's the way it seems to me. But the biggest problem is what happens behind closed doors. That is where things would get very interesting. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching the video. I appreciate it. I tried not to make it too long. I failed again, but I'll have more for you soon. Thanks again.